In today's video, we're going to be talking about the exact opposite of what I did last video. Last video, if you haven't watched it, make sure to check it after this video, and it was about 5 car trends that didn't die off. Unfortunately, today we're going to talk about 5 car trends that did die off, and ones that we sorely miss. The first thing I'll talk about are crazy color options from factory. I miss the crazy color options of the past, not just for the exterior, but also for the interior. Cars back then would have red interiors, blue interiors, green interiors, tan interiors, brown, black, white. White interiors are super hard to keep clean, but god, did they all look so nice. If you ever look at old highway footage from the 70s or 80s, it makes me envious. The highways back then were just beautiful, a sea of color, and there's some people who've actually uploaded videos like that here onto YouTube. I'll try to link one down below. If you ever look at old paintings or restored photos with color from cars of the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, you'll see that the roads of Chicago, New York, California, all just had beautiful colored cars. So it wasn't that manufacturers were producing boring colors because boring colors made more money and sold better. It was because people themselves wanted boring colors, therefore encouraging manufacturers to no longer experiment, to no longer sell pretty colors. And that itself is a tragedy. The millennial generation, for how much they knock boomers, they by and far are extremely boring when it comes to their car color choices. They're probably the reason, no, they are the reason we just got ushered into the era of gray. Boomers, whether we want to admit it or not, had a lot of style. They really picked great car colors. Thankfully, Gen Z is starting to buy more colors again. Blue is finally seeing an entry into the top 5, and all different shades of blue are finally becoming options again. Toyota now offers this very bright blue for the RAV4 as well as some of the low-end Corolla models, and I love it. I love that there's just absolutely bright colors like this that remind me of the old 50s Bel Airs, and just, come on, we can keep going. You know, get some purples back on the road, get some greens back on the road, get some of any color. For the love of God, just pick an actual color, and if you want to pick a safe color, at least get black and white. I am so tired of all this boring gray and midlife crisis silver. Cars are your second most expensive purchase. Why would you buy something so dreary and boring? And if you're already depressed driving to work, trust me, having a gray car will just continue to make you feel gray. And a big excuse people use is, I don't want a flashy color because then it stands out in the crowd. Not if everyone in the crowd has a flashy color. Then you're just a color in the sea of colors. And that's why the 80s were such a beautiful time period to look at old highway footage, because you just see all different kinds of colors, all different shapes of vehicles. Nowadays you look at the roads, they're all just gray SUVs. That's literally it, just gray SUVs. You drive anything else, you stand out. But you know what, Gen Z, you guys are now finally starting to get your license, starting to become adults, and the ones of you who are starting to get your first careers, keep the trend going that you guys are doing. You guys so far have factually even proved to buy better car colors than the millennials before you, so keep it going. Get rid of this gray trend, for the love of God. Bring some color back into our life and stop making these highways so depressing looking. Our drive to work is already so bleak. Don't add to that. The next trend I miss are pop-up headlights. We always talk about how the 80s and 90s were the greatest thing to ever happen because of these, and you know what? That was correct. They still were the greatest thing to ever exist because of these. But let's be real. Things like music, fashion, they have trends that come and go, but then come back around again. So who's to say we can't do that for automotive trends? Bring these back. I definitely think pop-up headlights have earned a right to at least get an encore in the 21st century, at least until we're sick of them again. Now, the main appeal of pop-up headlights is that they allow the paint of your hood to transition uninterrupted all the way to your fenders and front bumper. That way, when they're put down, you just see whatever paint color you pick. So if you pick blue, you just see an entire blue front of your vehicle. Made for this really sleek, clean, and futuristic look, almost like a spaceship, especially when they come up and down. That just feels super techy and super futuristic. But of course, that futuristic appeal, in air quotes, only held strong when it was juxtaposed against the flat headlight designs of the cars in the 70s. But after 20 or so years, people kind of got less and less fascinated by them, and they also became less and less fascinated about spaceship design and really space in general. So in due time, they also became less fascinated about pop-up headlights. Now, aside from lack of interest, another reason they left was also because a lot of the owners didn't think they're worth the money to maintain. Even to this day, you can find a lot of used 80s and 90s cars that had their headlights converted into a normal fixed design, or the previous owner just never repaired them. And this kind kind of makes sense because they were great for the first 1 or 2 owners who got them when they were close to new and they still worked fine. But as the 2000s kind of came around, a lot of these needed fixing because it's been 20 years or so and they started to actually break. And a lot of non-car people are usually the ones buying these cars used, and you know they can't be bothered to spend cash on anything on vehicles, so they just didn't fix them, or they replaced it with a fixed headlight assembly. And in the long term, a fixed headlight assembly is just way cheaper because it doesn't have to deal with extra wiring, vacuum lines, and the electrical motors used to flip these in and out. And non-car enthusiasts, whether we want to admit it or not, are the majority of car buyers, so whatever they say is what goes in the industry. Lighter weight vehicles. Now this was not a trend as a result of car community changing their mind, it was really a trend of just the greater world around us evolving. As more and more technology became prevalent, it only became obvious that someday we would throw them in the vehicles. And with all that expensive technology in the vehicle also came more insulation as well as more plastic and more weight that needed to be put around it to protect those items from the elements. Cars nowadays like to brag about being underneath 3,000 pounds like it's an accomplishment. Yet only 20 years ago, that was considered standard weight for a vehicle. The era of technology is what weighed the majority of our cars down. Not just tech as in the center console tech, but also tons of safety systems like ABS, traction control, as well as stability management, blind spot assist, cameras that help you look in the rear and front, or stuff like that. Little things like that are what adds up. So when you combine all the safety features, all the technology, and all the extra wiring that has to serve that technology, all the extra battery and power and size that has to serve that technology, and all the insulation and material that needs to protect that technology from the heat of your engine as well as from the elements of your car driving in rain, snow, and whatnot, it makes sense why cars started to pack on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds over each year to the point that they're now basically 1,000 pounds heavier than what they used to be 20 years ago. Like the normal sedan these days is like 3,600 to 4,200 pounds. The next thing I miss are manual handbrakes. Regular car reviews was right. Something about tugging up a manual handbrake really does satisfy the monkey brain within us. Also, when he said this about the Corvette C7.
All you're thinking is, when is this component gonna fail?
And I agree with that statement because I took for granted how my Mustang's parking brake was just that. It's just a parking brake slash e-brake slash handbrake, whatever you want to call it. My Corvette's tiny little latch here, man, it just doesn't feel right. This does not give you the amount of dopamine, the amount of satisfaction and serotonin that I'm looking for. And even worse than that, if this breaks, this is gonna be 4 times more expensive to fix than a dumb old normal handbrake. On top of that, all the electric motors and whatnot that are put inside of it make it heavier. So we're literally just in a lose-lose-lose situation. We have a device that doesn't give me the monkey brain satisfaction of dopamine. It also weighs more than its predecessor due to all electronic devices and safeties and whatnot that we put inside of it. And finally, it also costs way more expensive to fix whenever it does finally break, which it will, like all things will. Honorable mentions, manual gearbox. The reason this is an honorable mentions is because it's not quite a trend that has died off entirely, especially outside of the US. In the US, everyone cries about, oh, manuals are gone, manuals are gone. In Europe, manuals are still very much a thing, and in India, manuals are still very much a thing, and in many other places in the world, they're very much still a thing. They're just not much a thing in the United States. So because of that, I only put in honorable mentions just to kind of pay homage to it. I think it'll always kind of remain here and there. I don't think it'll fully die off just quite yet. I say that, but with the dawn of the electric era, they might finally die off. And man, cars suck now, guys, man. Okay, you know what? Last entry before I get super depressed about all this. Turnkey ignition. Pushing a button just isn't the same. My freaking stupid monkey brain, like I told you with manual handbrakes, man, that dopamine kick of cranking a car to life and turning it and just feeling it rumble, I love it. I also like the clean design it leaves because your ignition where you insert your key in, that's always on the steering wheel. It's not in the actual design. Nowadays, when you look at like all the beautiful carbon fiber that like supercars come with, and then you just stare at a stupid red button that says start on it, whereas like in the past that would just be clean carbon fiber. Same thing with steering wheels. Like some steering wheels have their push to start on there. Back in the past, you would just have a nice clean steering wheel design. Now you have like a PlayStation 5 controller in front of you, and I just don't dig that. Now obviously if we're talking about traditional ignition turnkeys, I don't miss those too much because they weren't safe. Like at all. You can just hotwire those, really easy to steal. However, keyless ignition push to start ones aren't exactly that much safer. In my opinion, transponder keys were the golden age of turnkey ignition because transponder keys are one of the hardest keys to steal. And even if we just don't talk about security or monkey brain satisfaction, it just really begs the question, does pushing a button really save that much time compared to turning a key? In fact, does it even save time at all? Because you still have to depress the brake and then you still have to push the button and then it still takes a while for the car to crank to life. It's probably the same exact amount of time. It's just for luxurious feel. I don't feel very luxurious though. Like I said, I'm lacking that dopamine kick of just cranking it up. To me, this is one of the things that there might actually be fashionable to go back a little. I used to knock on Maseratis for, oh my god, they don't have push button start yet. I think they're okay with that. That's the only other thing I think that's okay about them. I still don't like most of their cars, but at least they were right to think that customers should still just use transponder keys. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this video. Do you agree with what I said? Do you think I should have added more? Make sure to comment it down below. And if you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe for cars, anime, and gaming. And also make sure to smack the like button to help boost this video in the algorithm. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bladed Angel out.